Welcome to the WIHS Journal. On today's broadcast, I'll be talking to Katie Piazza, the author of the book Victorious. Victorious was her daughter's name. We'll hear more about this touching story coming up. Well, today on the phone line, we have a Katie Piazza, and she's written a book called Victorious, and a mother and daughter's journey through the valley of the shadow. And that's what it's called. And her story is amazing. You're a nurse. You have a bachelor's degree in psychology, but there's a lot of other information to you. Would you mind just doing that, and then we'll talk about the book?
Sure. I would say in 2017, our family was a pretty typical Christian family. My husband was an elementary school principal at a Christian school, and then I was working part-time as a nurse in the emergency room. But I was primarily a stay-at-home mom to our son, who was then a toddler. In August of that year, I gave birth to our second child, Colette, and she was, by all accounts, perfectly well and healthy at birth. She did wonderful at newborn checkups. She was growing. She was thriving. However, at 10 weeks old is when things started to change overnight. She began to vomit and stopped eating and became just suddenly very irritable. So I took her to her pediatrician, who then transferred us to a local pediatric hospital. That's where Colette had a CT scan that revealed that she had a rare and aggressive brain tumor. So Colette went from being completely outwardly normal to critically ill literally overnight. And from then on, the battle for Colette's life involved 7 months of inpatient or in the hospital chemotherapy. She had stem cell transplants. She had month-long stays in the PICU. She ended up going through 5 brain surgeries. She had radiation, and eventually we did home-based chemotherapy. Wow. During that time, we were shifting back and forth. What's this week's new normal? What's this week's new normal? And that's kind of what our life was like between 2017 and 2019.
In the book, was it kind of like a dialogue, a journey? Did you write every day?
You know what, I did. I have been journaling since second grade, and so I always wondered, when am I going to stop journaling? And apparently I'm never going to stop journaling. Yes, I did journal through nearly every day of the time we had with Colette, and now I feel like those are just treasures. It's a treasure to have not only the pictures, but also the dialogue, the soul behind the pictures through my journals, yeah.
You share about another mother in the Bible who went through something similar, struggles that you did, and who was it, and what are the similarities?
Yeah, so I open the book by talking about how the biblical account of Moses and Moses' mother really came to life for me early in the days of Colette's diagnosis. I remember reading it by the hospital cribside while Colette was asleep and just being stunned by the similarity between myself and Moses' mother. We were both given children that I describe in my book as having a death sentence. Moses was born into a world that condemned him to death for simply being male, and then Colette was born into a world with this aggressive brain tumor that developed in utero and was aggressively claiming her life. What was amazing is that the children were even the same age. Moses was 3 months old, the Bible says, and then Colette was just 2 weeks shy of being 3 months old. So I just felt this amazing connection, though we were separated from each other. I was connected to this woman because we shared the same pain, the same fears, and then even the same God. And he was enough for her, and he was enough for me as well.
Yeah. Your studies, I know that you work as an emergency room nurse, did it actually prepare you for what you faced?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I feel like God was so gracious in allowing me to be trained first as a nurse before placing me in the trial he did. He says, the Bible says in Psalms 18:33, it talks about God preparing us by making our feet like the feet of a deer, then placing us in the high places. So I see God's preparation as he prepared me to become a nurse because he made me feel at home in the emergency room, and he made me feel at home in the hospital, which then allowed me to feel at home taking care of Colette, even though it wasn't in my own home. But yeah, as I first started off in the emergency room, I was struck with all the pain that was coming through the door. And it wasn't just the physical complaints. There was so much emotional and fear and it just those soul troubles. And my heart just broke for these people. And then as I tried to care for these people, I found, I was so limited. There was so little I can do for the emotional pain that people had. Whether it was anxiety over responsibilities, worry over children, frustration over circumstances. So I was looking for answers. And during this time, God led me to a church that was just devoted to the principles of biblical counseling. And I eventually enrolled in their program, studied, and am in the process of becoming a biblical counselor. But God had me prepare for not only counseling others, but then counseling myself through the trial that we had to face.
Yeah. I can't imagine what it's like, to be a mom and watch your baby going through all this. And when you were going through this process of, repetitive surgery and going through all this, how do you think how is he comforting you, going through this adversity?
Oh, the Bible talks about him being a very present help in trouble. And I can say from experience, he is a very present help in trouble. He showed up through, I remember times when verses would come out of nowhere, and I would say, well, did I memorize that at some time in my life? Verses would come, hymns would come, someone would show up at the door. There was repeated ways of God saying, I'm here, and I'm good. And I can't tell you that, looking in, if you're a bystander looking into someone's life saying, wow, how are they going through that trial? I'm telling you how they're going through the trial. They have a peace that passes understanding. They have Christ with them in that trial. And it's incredible to experience, not something that you necessarily sign up for and say, oh, I'd love to go through a trial so I can experience Christ at that level. But I promise you, when God is faithful, and he is that very present help in trial.
Yeah. If you're just tuning in right now, this is Katie Piazza. We're talking about her book, Victorious. What would you like listeners to know about this book? If they pick it up, what would you hope that they would get from this book?
First of all, I do not want people to be turned away by the seriousness. I hear that a lot. People saying, oh, I could never read something like that, or, it'd be too depressing, or too, the book is a story with a sad, serious nature. However, there is, running through it, there is the joy, there is sweetness, there is hope, and there's triumph. And I don't want people to be turned away. So I hope that they will pick it up and they won't be turned away by the nature of the book. And then I hope by reading it, they will gain a confidence in our God, that they will be reminded that, there's nothing to fear in the future, because every day we wake up, we are handed a life that God has approved for us. It's his script. He has said, this is going to be your life, and I will be with you as you walk through it. However dark, however scary, he will be there day by day walking us through it. And I hope that's what they get out of the book, a confidence, a peace, knowing that I don't have to fear the future because I know the one that's writing my future for me, and I know he'll never leave me, and he will consistently be good to me.
Yeah. And why did you choose the word victorious to describe your daughter, Colette?
I chose the word victorious. Early in her life, we would use the word victorious to describe her, and I love the reason. Her name actually means victorious. Colette is a French name that comes from the name Nicole or Nicholas, which originates from the Greek god of victory, Nike. So her name literally means victory, and so I chose it for that reason. But then I also chose it because I felt it exemplified our daughter's life, Colette's life. She lived 21 and a half months on Earth. And every day, she was used by God for a purpose, for a plan. God used her to teach others about his power, his goodness, to transform everyone who knew her for the better. And so I used that because I felt that she was victorious. She fulfilled the mission God sent her here to do. And I'm proud of her, and I think she is victorious.
Once again, that was Katie Piazza and her book, Victorious. If you would like more details about the broadcast, call WIHS. Our number is 860-346-1049. The opinions expressed are those of the participants, not necessarily those of the staff and management of the station. I'm Anissa Porticelli for News and Public Affairs.